devoured by something that, so if there's 7 billion humans, there's got to be 3 trillion ants. Well, if they all showed up at the same time at your house, there ain't enough spray to kill them. Amen? You know, so here it says, so if you don't bear fruit, you'll wither. They'll cut you off. And then what happens when you cut a tree limb off? It withers, don't it? It has no more way to draw nutrition from the tree because it's cut off, and then it turns. The leaves will first turn brown, and then it's dead. And actually, the way that the reason we have Christmas trees is because they're evergreen, and though they're cut off and dead, and they're dead, but they appear to be alive. Of course, there's a lot of theories about where the Christmas tree came from. Probably came from Nimrod. A Christmas tree grew up out of his grave, and Nimrod was the one that started the city of Babylon. And when his father died, well, his mother took him in, and him and her had an incestuous affair the rest of his life. Him and his mother were like husband and wife. And so when they buried him, and that evergreen tree grew up out of his grave, well, then his mother would have to go hang ornaments on it every year, to honor Nimrod, who had built the city of Babylon. And so maybe that's where Christmas trees originate, and all the ornaments we put on them. All we're doing is, in a way, honoring incest if you look at it that way, instead of Jesus. But the evergreen tree also represents eternal life because it stays green. So in that way, we can also say we can have a Christmas tree because it's going to stay green. It reminds us that we're going to stay green all of our life. We're going to stay, it looks alive. Looks alive, it's dead, it looks alive, no. But when we cut it down in the forest, we kill it, and it stays green, but it will dry out and eventually burn your house down if you don't get rid of it, So here it says, it says, and after he tells you what's going to happen if you don't bear fruit, but then he turns and gives you a good word. If you abide in me and my words abide in you, you shall ask what you will, and it shall be done unto you. Here again, if you abide in me, abide in who? The real Jesus. Not the modified Jesus that does not exist, but the real Jesus of this Bible. They go, well, Jesus is all love. He's all love. Let me tell you something. Jesus is the one that punishes this earth. He unlatches the seals. The Bible said they couldn't unlatch the plagues to send to the earth to punish the people that turned their back on Jesus. And all of a sudden, in Revelation chapter 7, they said, in the midst of the throne stood the Lamb of God, and he alone is worthy. And he walked up and he unlatched them seals to punish the earth. So at the same time you're hollering Jesus' love, you need to know that he holds it really. He's got some hard feelings against those that turn their back on him after he died on Calvary's cross, because he's going to unlatch them plagues upon this earth after the church is raptured out. And he'll punish this earth for 7 long years before the battle of Armageddon. And so ask what you will, and it shall be done. He starts to tell us here, now you can get access. But he spent a number of verses telling us, you need to get a hold, you need to bear fruit. And you need to get a hold of the real Jesus. Not one you make up, not one that allows sin. The real Jesus never allows willful sin. Sinning when we know it's wrong, that's willful. That's doing it when we know it's wrong. Sometimes we sin out of ignorance. Paul did. And Jesus will, let us slide and teach us not to do that again. But when we willfully sin, the Bible says, we know that he died for our past sins, and when we willfully sin after salvation, he's not going back to Calvary for them, folks. He's not going to say, you know what, I want you to go back to Calvary and hang one more time for me. He ain't going to do that, is he? He went to that cross one time, and then he went to sit down at the right hand of the Father, and he said, I made the ultimate sacrifice, so you need to get a hold of that. I ain't going to go do it again. You know, so you don't need to, after you get saved, you need to start getting, and you should never, ever, ever willfully sin. If you know it's wrong, please don't do it, because your soul is at stake. You know, and you know, how many know people come and say, well, I'm not really sure if I should watch this movie, or you know, if you got a check in your spirit, it's probably wrong. If you got to ask me if it's right, it's probably wrong. Okay? You should know this is all right with Jesus to do. You know, so that's how you gauge yourself. You get a check in your spirit about something, you know. You know, the lady said, well, you know what, I don't agree with a lot of what God said, and when I get to heaven, I'm going to give him the peace of my mind. And I said, I don't think you'd have to worry about it. You know, don't think you got to worry about it at all, because don't think that's where you're going. Go down and give the devil a piece of your mind, you know. And the other thing is, so you know, you don't need to give away a piece of your mind. You need all you got. You know, you don't need to start giving it away. So, and then I want to get down to the next verse. Actually, verse 8. Herein is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit. So shall you be my disciples. You want to be Jesus' disciple? And you know what Jesus wants more than anything? To glorify the Father. He had his heart set on glorifying his Father. How many of you are like that way? You like your Father, you know? How many got to where, when I was a kid growing up, my dad used corporate punishment, you know, which is taking the belt to my sorry hide, you know, when I disobeyed him. And I got to where I didn't go do the right thing, Brother Steve, because my dad would use corporate punishment. I did it because I wanted to please my dad. I went from having to do it or get a spanking to wanting to do it just because I wanted to glorify my Father. I want to say, Dad, look, you raised a good boy. You know? And my dad had simple rules. Do not steal, do not lie. If you ever lie, son, if you don't ever lie to me, I got you back. No matter what people say, I got you back. But if you ever lie to me one time, I'm done. So I never lied, and I never stole. Because that was two things my dad said you cannot do, is these two things. And of course, there were some others too, like respect your elders. You know? And where's that gone? You know? When they took corporate, you know the nut that took corporate punishment out named Spot? Huh? Benjamin Spot? His own son committed suicide after he raised him with no corporate punishment, and then he killed himself. You know, so you know he's the one that started this. You know, that's child abuse. You know, and all that junk. And let me tell you something. I figured out a long time ago. You know what your children will do? Your kids will do anything they can that you let them. That's what they'll do. That's what I would do. I would do anything that my dad and mom would let me do. So, how many know that's never changed? And you parents know I'm telling you the truth. Yeah. You know, the first thing, your kids got to learn. Of course, now we got heating and air, but used to we had stoves. First thing you learn your kid is that's hot and it will burn you. You know, and then as a kid, you still got to run up and touch it. Then you go cry to mom, right? Stove burns your finger, really. You know. So we do it until we see. You know, we don't believe. You know, kids don't believe until they actually see. You know, of course, there's where spanking comes in. That'll make a believer out of it. You know, I mean, you don't tell your kid you're going to knock their head off or punch them in the mouth. You know, that's the devil. You tell them I'm going to spank you. You know, so he said. So he wants to glorify his Father. And you can be my disciples if you help me glorify my Father. You know, it's very simple. It's a very simple doctrine. You know, and there's other roots that we can be hooked to. A root that beareth gall and wormwood, found in Deuteronomy. Matthew talks about us having no root. Luke talks about having no root. In a time of temptation, we fall away. So it begins to talk about there's a lot of other roots that we can be a branch of other than Jesus, you know. in 1 Timothy chapter 6, Paul writes that worldly gain is the root of all evil. All evil comes from worldly gain, wanting to. And he even says that in verse 10, he says, some have desired after worldly gain, and they have erred from the faith and pierced themselves through with many sorrows. So when you go after worldly gain, you pierce yourself with many sorrows. God don't pierce you. You pierce yourself with many sorrows. In other words, he puts, the pain of taking and stabbing yourself with the sorrows of following the world, don't he? And Paul is trying to teach Timothy. He also, Hebrews talks about a root of bitterness. We can be hooked to a root of bitterness. We can be so mad and so unforgiving at one person. And Jesus said, you can't go to heaven, because if you don't forgive, that's one of the commandments. That's one of the commandments that has to be followed. If you don't forgive, you don't go. If you don't forgive everybody that's ever done anything to you, then my Father will not forgive you. So that's one of the commandments that has to be followed. And then he talks about also looking diligently lest any man fail of the grace of God. In other words, you can make grace of no effect. You actually fail, and grace is no good to you. Unless a root of bitterness springing up trouble you, and therefore many be defiled. In Acts chapter 8, Peter tells Simon the sorcerer, I perceive that thou art in a gall of bitterness and in a bond of iniquity. You're bound by sin. Once you get bitterness, sin will bind you. You'll get into other sins because of bitterness, and you're bound, and you can't get set free except by the blood of the Lamb. By receiving Jesus, amen. Bow your heads with me, please. I want to ask you, search your heart. You need to know. I want you to ask yourself, if I died this afternoon, would I wind up in heaven? Do I know? Or am I hoping, or wishing, or believing I might? Then I want you to know that you know. And if you don't know that you know, I want to pray for you before we close this story. If there's anyone there says, Pastor, I don't know that I know, I want you to raise your hand. I'm going to pray for you. Anybody. Because one thing I want, and God wants, and I'm trying to be like Jesus, amen, make me like Jesus, is that everybody in this church leaves this place safe. So that if all of a sudden some nut comes by and blows this church up and vaporizes us all, like Timothy McVeigh did that city in Oklahoma, the Merle building in Oklahoma City in 1995, I want all of us to be in heaven instantly. And I want to look and see every face I'm looking at now. Amen? That's what God wants. That's what we want. We're not willing that one soul be lost. So we believe everybody's saved, so we're going to dismiss for lunch. And if you need prayer for anything, we'll be here. So stand to your feet.